The phone buzzed in my hand at 3:50 a.m., and I knew my marriage was over before I even unlocked the screen. I'm Tyler Bennett, and I'd been married to Jessica for 11 years. We had two kids, Emma, 9, and Noah, 6. I ran a successful commercial HVAC business in Charlotte, North Carolina, pulling in around 200 grand a year. Jessica worked part-time as a dental hygienist, mostly for something to do while the kids were at school. We had the house, the SUV, the golden retriever, the whole package. That night, I couldn't sleep. Insomnia had been hitting me hard lately, probably stress from bidding on a major hospital contract. I was scrolling through my phone, looking at nothing in particular, when I noticed Jessica's iPad glowing on her nightstand. She'd gotten a notification. I wouldn't normally look. I'm not that guy. But the preview on the lock screen made my stomach drop. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. The sender was listed as Pilates, Jenny. My wife didn't do Pilates, and I'd never heard her mention anyone named Jenny. My hands went cold. I glanced at Jessica sleeping beside me, her blonde hair spread across the pillow, breathing steady and peaceful. 11 years of marriage. 2 kids. A life we'd built together. I picked up her iPad. I knew her passcode. It was Emma's birthday. She'd never hidden it from me. Why would she? We trusted each other. Or so I thought. The message opened to a thread that made my world tilt sideways. Dozens of messages, going back 3 months. But Jenny wasn't Jenny at all. The contact name was fake. The real sender was someone named Derek Lawson. I need you again soon. Tuesday worked perfectly. He suspects nothing? No, Tyler's always buried in work. He barely notices I'm gone. I sat there in the dark, reading through months of my wife's affair. The messages were explicit enough to leave no doubt, but not so graphic that I couldn't stomach reading them. They met on Tuesdays and Thursdays, days I thought she was at work or running errands. They'd been to hotels, to his apartment. Once they'd been together while I was home with the kids, and she'd told me she was shopping with her sister. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was how casual it all seemed. How easy the lies came to her. How she'd kiss me goodbye in the morning, tell me she loved me, then spend the afternoon in bed with another man. I found photos. Nothing pornographic. Jessica was smarter than that. But enough. The two of them at a restaurant I didn't recognize. His hand on her waist. Her laughing at something he'd said, looking at him the way she used to look at me. Derek Lawson. I scrolled back through the messages until I found enough details to piece together who he was. A real estate agent, divorced, 42 years old. They'd met when Jessica went to an open house for her friend who was supposedly house hunting. That friend, I now realized, probably didn't exist either. I spent 2 hours reading everything. Every message, every photo, every casual mention of their plans. By the time I finished, the sky outside was starting to lighten. Jessica stirred beside me, rolling over but not waking. I put the iPad back exactly where I'd found it. My first instinct was to wake her up, to scream, to demand answers, to throw her out of the house right then and there. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the 11 years we'd spent together. Maybe it was thinking about Emma and Noah sleeping down the hall. Or maybe it was something colder, more calculated. If I confronted her now, angry and emotional, I'd lose the advantage. I got out of bed quietly and went downstairs. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I made coffee I didn't drink and stood in the kitchen, watching the sun come up through the window over the sink. This was real. This was happening. Jessica came down at 6:30, already dressed for work in her scrubs, hair pulled back in a ponytail. She smiled at me like she did every morning. "You're up early," she said, pouring herself coffee. "Couldn't sleep," I said. My voice sounded normal. I was surprised by that. The hospital contract? Yeah. She kissed my cheek. I didn't pull away. I stood there and let her kiss me. This woman who'd been lying to my face for 3 months, and I smiled back. You'll get it, she said. You always do. Thanks. I've got an early appointment, so I'll be gone before the kids wake up. Can you handle breakfast? Sure. She grabbed her purse and keys. Love you. Love you too. The door closed behind her. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the space where she'd been. Then I pulled out my phone and started making calls. The first was to my business partner, Greg. I told him I needed to take a few days off, family emergency. He didn't ask questions. The second was to a lawyer I'd met through a client last year. Robert Patterson, divorce attorney. I'd installed a new HVAC system in his office building, and we'd gotten to talking. He'd given me his card, told me to call if I ever needed anything. I never thought I would. Robert Patterson's office, the receptionist answered. I need to schedule a consultation, I said. As soon as possible. May I ask what this is regarding? Divorce. I sat in Robert Patterson's office at 2 p.m. that same day. The consultation I'd asked for. His office was on the 14th floor of a building in uptown Charlotte. Glass desk, leather chairs, framed law degrees from Duke. Everything about the space said expensive, which was exactly what I needed. Tyler Bennett, he said, standing to shake my hand. Good to see you, though I wish it were under better circumstances. We'd met twice before at Chamber of Commerce events. He specialized in high net worth divorces. I'd made a mental note of that back then, never thinking I'd need the information. Thanks for fitting me in on short notice. You said it was urgent. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. What's going on? I pulled out my phone. My wife's having an affair. I found out last night. His expression didn't change. He'd probably heard this 1,000 times. I took screenshots, I said, opening my photos. 3 months worth of messages, hotels, meeting times, everything. I handed him the phone. He scrolled through the images, his face neutral and professional. It took him about 5 minutes to get through them all. This is solid evidence, he said, handing the phone back. North Carolina is one of the few states that still recognizes adultery in divorce proceedings. This will help with the settlement, potentially with custody. I want full custody of my kids. Understood. But I need to be realistic with you. Courts in North Carolina favor joint custody unless there's evidence of abuse or neglect. Adultery alone usually isn't enough. I'd expected that. What about the house, the business? You own the HVAC company outright? Yes. Started it 6 years before we got married. That helps. Anything acquired before marriage is typically separate property, though she may have a claim on growth during the marriage. He pulled out a legal pad. The house? Bought it 4 years ago, both our names on the deed. He made a note. We'll need to establish the full scope of marital assets. Bank accounts, retirement funds, vehicles, property. I'll need documentation of everything. I can get that. Good. He set down his pen. Now, here's what I need you to do. First, don't confront her yet. Don't let her know you know. I haven't said anything. Keep it that way. Second, I need you to document your involvement with your children. Start keeping a log. What time you pick them up, help with homework, make meals, everything. We need to establish you as an active, involved parent. I nodded. Third, and this is important, do not move out of the house. Don't sleep in another room if you can help it. Maintain the status quo. If you leave, it can be used against you in custody proceedings. The thought of sleeping next to Jessica made my stomach turn, but I understood the strategy. Fourth, open a separate bank account, not to hide assets, we'll disclose everything, but to establish financial independence. Start routing your business income there. What about our joint accounts? Don't drain them. Don't make any large withdrawals, but document every penny. I want statements going back 3 years. He spent the next 20 minutes walking me through the process. Filing procedures, temporary custody arrangements, how to serve papers. The likely timeline, 6 months minimum, possibly over a year if things got contentious. My retainer is $15,000, he said. That covers initial filing and the first phase of proceedings. Depending on how your wife responds, cost could go up. That's fine. One more thing. He leaned forward. North Carolina allows for alienation of affection lawsuits. You can sue the other man, Derek Lawson, for damages. It's a civil suit, separate from the divorce. Sue him? For destroying your marriage. It's an old law, but it's still on the books here. If you can prove he knew she was married and pursued the relationship anyway, you have a case. Settlements can be significant. I thought about Derek Lawson's messages, the ones where he'd joked about Tyler, the clueless husband. The ones where he'd asked Jessica if she'd told me she was working late. He knew, I said. Then it's worth considering. I can refer you to someone who handles those cases. But think about it. It'll extend the timeline, add stress, make everything more public. I'll think about it. We shook hands. I wrote him a check for the retainer from my business account. He said he'd start drawing up papers and would contact me in a few days. I left his office at 3:30 p.m. Jessica got off work at 4 SARS. The kids' school let out at 3:15, and they went to after-school care until 5:30 on weekdays. I had time. I drove to our bank, the one where Jessica and I had our joint accounts. Walked in and asked to speak with someone about opening a business account. They set me up with a checking account under my company name. I'd start routing payments there tomorrow. Then I went to Office Depot and bought a small notebook, pocket-sized. I'd start logging everything like Robert had said. Every meal I made for Emma and Noah, every time I helped with homework or drove them somewhere, every parent-teacher conference, every doctor's appointment. I got home at 4:45 p.m. The house was empty. I went to my office and started gathering financial documents, bank statements, tax returns, the mortgage paperwork, investment account statements. I made copies of everything and put the originals back exactly where I'd found them. My phone buzzed at 5:15 p.m. Jessica. Picking up the kids, home in 20. Want me to grab takeout? I stared at the message, the casual normalcy of it, like she wasn't destroying our family. Me. Sure, Chinese? Jessica. Perfect. The usual? Me. Yeah. I went downstairs and waited. Opened my laptop at the kitchen table like I was working. Pulled up some invoices and tried to focus on them, but the numbers blurred together. The garage door opened at 5:40 p.m. I heard Emma and Noah's voices, their backpacks hitting the floor. Dad! Noah ran into the kitchen and hugged my leg. He was 6 and still did that. Hey, buddy. How was school? We learned about dinosaurs. Emma followed him in, more reserved at 9. Hi, Dad. Hey, sweetheart. Good day? It was okay. I got an A on my math test. That's great. I pulled her into a hug. She smelled like the strawberry shampoo Jessica bought her. Jessica came in carrying bags of Chinese food. She smiled at me. That same smile from this morning. Easy, comfortable, completely fake. I got extra spring rolls, she said. We ate dinner together. Jessica told a story about a difficult patient at the dental office. Emma talked about her math test. Noah explained the difference between a Tyrannosaurus and a Velociraptor with the intensity of a college professor. I smiled and nodded and asked questions. I helped Noah cut his orange chicken into smaller pieces. I complimented Emma on her test score again. And the whole time, I thought about Jessica's messages to Derek. The ones where she'd said she couldn't wait to leave this boring suburban life behind. The ones where she'd called our marriage a mistake she'd been too young to avoid. After dinner, I helped Emma with her homework while Jessica gave Noah a bath. At 8 p.m., we put the kids to bed. I read Noah a story about a friendly dragon. Jessica tucked Emma in and kissed her forehead. Then we were alone in the living room. "I'm exhausted," Jessica said, stretching on the couch. "I think I'll go to bed early." "Okay," she looked at me. "You coming up soon?" "I've got some work to finish, probably another hour." "Don't stay up too late." She kissed my cheek and headed upstairs. I sat there in the empty living room, pulled out the notebook I'd bought and made my first entries. 5:40 p.m. Greeted kids when they got home. Talked with Noah about school. 6 p.m. Family dinner. Helped Noah with his food. 7 p.m. Helped Emma with homework, math and reading. 8 p.m. Read bedtime story to Noah. Small things, normal things. The things I did every day without thinking about them. Now they were evidence. I heard the shower running upstairs, Jessica getting ready for bed. In a few minutes, she'd be asleep. Tomorrow was Wednesday. According to her message history, she didn't see Derek on Wednesdays. Those were family nights, apparently. She saved Tuesdays and Thursdays for him. How considerate. I opened my laptop and started going through our joint bank account statements, looking for patterns, hotel charges, restaurant bills, anything that might be useful. My phone buzzed. A text from Greg, my business partner. Greg: "Everything okay? You seemed off today." Me: "Personal stuff. I'll explain later." Greg: "Let me know if you need anything." Me: "Thanks." I kept scrolling through bank statements. Found a charge from the Marriott downtown from 6 weeks ago. $247. Jessica had told me she was going to a dental hygiene conference that weekend. I took a screenshot. Found another charge. Nordstrom. $340. A week before that. She'd come home with nothing, said she'd just been browsing. Screenshot. Dinner at a steakhouse I'd never been to. $180. She'd said she was working late that night. Screenshot. I built a file. Evidence on top of evidence. Every lie documented, every deception cataloged. At 11:30 p.m., I finally went upstairs. Jessica was asleep, her blonde hair spread across the pillow. She looked peaceful, content. I got ready for bed in the bathroom, brushed my teeth, changed into sleep clothes, looked at myself in the mirror. I looked the same as I had yesterday. Same face, same person. But everything had changed. I got into bed next to my wife, lay there in the darkness, listened to her breathing, and started planning my next move. I spent the next week playing the perfect husband. I took Jessica to dinner on Friday night. Italian place she liked downtown, the one with the wine list she always spent 20 minutes studying. I ordered the Chianti she'd pick anyway, smiled across candlelight, asked about her day. She told me about a difficult patient, some guy who wouldn't sit still during a cleaning. I nodded in the right places, reached across the table to touch her hand. "You seem really present lately," she said. "It's nice." "Just appreciating what I have," I said. She smiled at that. Genuine, warm, the same smile she'd given me 11 years ago when I proposed. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Saturday morning, I made pancakes with Emma and Noah. Jessica slept in like she always did on weekends. The kids got syrup everywhere. I didn't care. I took pictures on my phone, made sure the timestamps were visible, documented everything. "Dad, can we go to the park?" Noah asked. "Sure, buddy. Let me check with Mom first." Jessica came down around 10, hair still wet from the shower. She had that post-sleep glow, wearing one of my old t-shirts that hung to her knees. "Kids want to go to the park," I said. "You coming?" "I've got that thing with Amy this afternoon," she said. "Remember? We're looking at bridesmaid dresses for her sister's wedding." I didn't remember, probably because she'd never mentioned it. "Right," I said. "What time?" "Meeting her at noon. Probably be gone a few hours. I checked my phone. Made a note. Today was Saturday, not Tuesday or Thursday. Either Derek was getting bolder, or this was actually legitimate. Have fun, I said. She kissed my cheek. Thanks for understanding. I took the kids to the park, pushed Emma on the swings, helped Noah across the monkey bars. Normal dad stuff. The kind of thing I'd been doing for 9 years, but now I made sure other parents saw me. Made conversation with the other fathers. Established presence, witnesses, character. My phone buzzed again. Greg this time. Got those numbers you wanted, he said when I answered. You sitting down? I'm at a park. What have you got? Business account's clean. Personal account, though? She's been pulling cash. 500 here, 300 there. Always just under the reporting threshold. I watched Noah climb higher on the jungle gym. How much total? Last 3 months? About 4 grand? I did the math. 3 months. Same timeline as the messages. $4,000 I hadn't noticed because I didn't check our personal account that carefully. I made the money, she managed the household expenses, division of labor we'd agreed on years ago. Thanks, I said. Send me the statements. Tyler, you want to tell me what's going on? Not yet. I hung up. Emma was calling for me to watch her go down the slide. I waved, smiled, took another picture. Normal Saturday morning at the park with my kids. But $4,000. That was new information. Jessica came home at 6. Later than a few hours, but I didn't comment. She had shopping bags from Nordstrom, showed me a blue dress she'd bought. For the wedding, she said. Amy helped me pick it out. It's nice, I said. How much? $250. Is that okay? I thought about the $4,000 in cash withdrawals. Sure, you deserve it. She kissed me. Really kissed me, the kind that suggested more. I kissed her back, let my hands settle on her waist, felt her lean into me. Kids are watching a movie, she whispered. We could... Yeah, I said. We could. We went upstairs. She pulled me toward the bedroom, that smile on her face, the one that used to make my heart race. Now it just made me cold. But I followed anyway, because this was the role I was playing. The unsuspecting husband. The man who had no idea. Afterward, she fell asleep with her head on my chest. I stared at the ceiling, her breathing steady against my ribs, and thought about Derek Lawson. 42 years old, divorced, real estate agent. I'd looked him up, found his website, his LinkedIn, his Facebook. Decent-looking guy. Professional headshot with too much teeth in the smile. Sold mostly residential properties in the South Charlotte area. Had a boat he posted about constantly. Some 26-foot center console he'd named Second Chance. I wondered if Jessica had been on that boat. If that's where some of the $4,000 had gone. My phone lit up on the nightstand. Email from Robert Patterson. Subject line. Initial strategy. I waited until Jessica's breathing deepened into real sleep, then carefully extracted myself. Grabbed my phone, went to the bathroom, closed the door. Robert's email was thorough. He'd outlined 3 approaches: quick settlement, protracted litigation, or what he called strategic pressure. The third option involved filing for divorce but negotiating hard before trial. Use the evidence to force favorable terms. Custody, assets, everything. Given the strength of your documentation, he wrote, and North Carolina's stance on adultery, you're in an excellent position. We can also pursue the alienation of affection claim against Mr. Lawson. That alone might motivate a faster settlement. I read it twice. Sat on the edge of the bathtub, phone glowing in the dark bathroom, my wife asleep 20 feet away. The alienation of affection claim was interesting. North Carolina was one of 6 states that still allowed it. Basically, you could sue the person your spouse cheated with for destroying your marriage. Damages could be significant. I'd read about cases settling for 6 figures. Derek Lawson sold houses for a living. Probably did okay, but a lawsuit like that would hurt. Publicly, professionally, financially, I thought about it. Really thought about it. Then I replied to Robert. Let's discuss the third option. Also want to explore the claim against Lawson. What's the timeline? His response came back in under 5 minutes. The man didn't sleep, apparently. Can meet Monday. Bring any additional documentation. Timeline depends on how much pressure you want to apply before filing. We could move in as little as 2 weeks, or wait several months to gather more evidence. Your call. 2 weeks. I could be done with this in 2 weeks. But something stopped me. Some instinct that said, wait, watch, learn more. Because $4,000 in cash withdrawals suggested something beyond hotel rooms and restaurants. That was too much money for what I'd seen in the messages. I texted Greg. Need you to do something for me. Discreet. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Name it. Can you follow someone? Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Just see where they go. Long pause. Then, you want me to tail your wife? Yeah. Jesus, Tyler. I need to know everything before I move. Can you do it or not? Another pause. I'll do it. But you're going to owe me the full story when this is over. Deal. I deleted the messages, cleared the history, went back to bed. Jessica had rolled over, taking most of the blankets. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, planning. Monday morning, I dropped the kids at school, drove to Robert's office, brought him the bank statements Greg had sent, the cash withdrawal records, everything. This is good, Robert said, spreading papers across his desk. Very good. Shows financial deception alongside the affair. Courts don't like that. What kind of settlement are we looking at? Depends on what you want. Custody? Primary physical. Joint legal, but I want them most of the time. He nodded, made notes. Property? House is in both names. Bought it 6 years ago. Worth about $450 now. We owe $220. Business? Separate property. Started it before we married. She's never been involved. Good. That's clean then. He looked up. The alienation claim against Lawson. You serious about that? What's it worth? Hard to say. Depends on the jury, the evidence, his assets. Could be $50,000, could be $200. Could be nothing if we can't prove he knew she was married, but he tapped the printed messages. He clearly knew. I thought about Derek's boat, his Facebook posts, his smiling headshot. Do it, I said. File everything, but not yet. When? I'll tell you. Soon. Just have it ready. He studied me across the desk. Tyler, I have to ask, you're sure about this? Once we file, especially with the alienation claim, this gets ugly, public. There's no going back. I'm sure. I wasn't, not entirely. But I said it anyway because what else was there to say? I left his office, drove to work, spent the afternoon reviewing contracts and avoiding Greg's questions. My phone stayed silent until 4:30, when it buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mr. Bennett, this is Amy Carlson. I think we need to talk about Jessica. I stared at the message on my phone. This is Amy Carlson. We need to talk about Jessica. I sat in my truck in the parking lot of a commercial property I just quoted, engine off, phone in my hand. The number wasn't saved in my contacts. Area code 704, local. I typed back, who is this? 3 dots appeared immediately. She'd been waiting. Jessica's friend, the one she told you she goes shopping with on Thursdays. We need to talk, not over text. My hands went cold. I'd seen Amy's name and Jessica's messages to me over the past few months. Out with Amy tonight. Don't wait up. Amy wants to hit the outlets. I'll grab dinner out. at least a dozen times. I called the number. A woman answered on the first ring. Tyler? Yeah. Thank God. I wasn't sure you'd call. Her voice was tight, nervous. I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say it. Jessica hasn't been shopping with me. We haven't hung out in almost 4 months. I let the silence stretch out. I saw her yesterday at Target, Amy continued. She was with some guy. They were laughing, holding hands in the parking lot. When she saw me, she went white. Literally white. She pulled away from him and came over, said it wasn't what it looked like, begged me not to tell you. What did you say? I told her I needed to think about it. Then I went home and couldn't sleep. I have kids too, Tyler. A husband. If someone knew he was cheating on me, I'd want them to tell me. She paused, but then I thought maybe you already knew. Maybe you had some arrangement. So I figured I'd reach out and… I know about the affair, I said. Oh. Relief flooded her voice. Oh, thank God. I was so worried I was about to blow up your whole life. When did you see her? What time? Around 2, Tuesday afternoon, at the Target on Providence Road. Tuesday. Not Thursday. Jessica had told me she was meeting a potential client about redesigning their office yesterday. Said she'd be home by 5. She'd walked in at 5:30 with takeout from Chipotle and a story about traffic. Can you describe the guy? Tall, maybe 6 feet, brown hair, graying at the temples, looked like he was in his 40s, wearing a polo shirt and khakis. He was driving a silver Lexus. Derek Lawson drove a silver Lexus. I'd looked him up on the real estate website, found his photo. It matched. Did you see where they went? No. After Jessica talked to me, I left. I was too freaked out. Amy hesitated. Tyler, I'm really sorry. I know we've only met a few times at school events, but this felt wrong not to say something. You did the right thing. Thank you. What are you going to do? Handle it, I said, and ended the call. I sat there for another minute, then pulled up Greg's number. He answered with his usual grunt. Yeah? Where are you? Office. Why? I need you to follow Jessica today, right now. It's Wednesday. I know what day it is. Something's changed. I put the truck in drive and pulled out of the parking lot. I just got a call from Amy Carlson, the friend Jessica's supposedly been shopping with on Thursdays. And? They haven't hung out in 4 months. Amy saw Jessica yesterday at Target with Derek, holding hands in the parking lot. Greg swore. So she's seeing him more than twice a week. That's what I'm thinking, and that would explain the cash. You think she's meeting him other days too? I think she's lying about a lot more than I realized. I merged onto the highway, heading back toward the office. Can you get to my house? See if she leaves? Give me 20 minutes. I called Jessica. She answered on the 3rd ring, slightly breathless. Hey babe, what's up? Just checking in. What's your day look like? Oh, errands. I need to hit the grocery store, maybe get my nails done. Why? Just wondering if you wanted to grab lunch. A pause. I can't today. I've got that dentist appointment at 1, remember? She'd never mentioned a dentist appointment. I'd been tracking her calendar for 2 weeks. There was nothing written down. Right, yeah. Forgot about that. Okay, I'll see you tonight. Love you, she said, bright and easy. You too. I hung up and called Greg back. She says she has a dentist appointment at 1. Want me to follow her there? Follow her everywhere. Greg called me at 2:15. She's at the Whole Foods on Fairview, he said. Been inside for about 10 minutes. No dentist appointment. She left the house at 12:30, drove straight here. Stay on her. Copy that. At 3:05, Greg called again. She just came out with 1 bag of groceries, getting in her car now. I was at a job site in Huntersville, pretending to inspect ductwork while my phone burned in my pocket. She's heading east on Fairview, Greg said. Toward, wait, she's turning into the Courtyard Marriott. My stomach dropped. The hotel? Yeah, parking now. She's getting out. Left the groceries in the car. She's walking toward the entrance. Is Derek's car there? Hold on. A pause. Silver Lexus, North Carolina plates. Yeah, he's here. I stood in the half-finished building, surrounded by exposed beams and concrete dust, and felt something cold settle into my chest. Get photos, I said. Timestamps, everything. Already on it. You want me to wait and see how long she stays? Yeah. I went back to work. Measured ducks, talked to the foreman, checked pressure readings. My hands were steady, my voice was calm. Inside, I was doing math. If she was meeting him on Wednesdays too, that was 3 days a week. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Wednesdays. The messages had shown Tuesdays and Thursdays. She'd been hiding Wednesdays completely. Different lies. Different cover stories. Greg called at 5:47. She just came out. 2 hours and 40 minutes. She's getting in her car. Derek came out about 3 minutes before her. Separate exits. Where's she heading? Looks like, yeah, she's going home. Taking Fairview West. Okay, thanks, Greg. Tyler. His voice was serious. This is bad, man. This is really bad. I know. What are you going to do? I'll figure it out. I drove home at my normal time, 6:30, pulled into the driveway. Jessica's SUV was there, groceries probably put away by now. I could see lights on in the kitchen through the window. I sat in my truck for a minute, looking at my house. The house I'd bought 7 years ago. The house where my kids were probably doing homework right now. The house where my wife had just returned from spending nearly 3 hours in a hotel room with another man. I got out and walked inside. Jessica was at the stove, stirring something in a pot. She turned and smiled when I came in. Hey, perfect timing. Dinner's almost ready. Smells good. I set my keys on the counter. How was your day? Oh, boring errands. The dentist took forever. She rolled her eyes. I swear they always run late. Yeah, they do. I walked over and kissed her cheek. She leaned into it. Comfortable? Easy. How about you? She asked. Good day? Productive. Closed the deal on that property in Huntersville. That's great, babe. She went back to stirring. Kids are in the living room. Emma has a math test tomorrow, so she's studying. I walked into the living room. Emma was on the couch with her textbook. Noah was building something with Legos on the floor. They both looked up when I came in. Hey, Dad, Emma said. Hey, sweetheart. How's the studying going? Okay, I guess. Fractions are hard. Want me to help after dinner? Yes, please. I sat down next to her and looked at her worksheet. Normal. Everything was normal. Except nothing was normal. Nothing had been normal for 3 months, maybe longer. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Greg. I sent the photos to your email, timestamps included. Also got video of her walking into the hotel and coming out. You'll want to see this. I texted back, thanks. Jessica called from the kitchen. Dinner's ready. We sat down at the table. Spaghetti and meatballs, salad, garlic bread. Jessica served the kids first, then me, then herself. We ate. Emma talked about her math test. Noah talked about his Lego spaceship. Jessica asked them questions, laughed at Noah's jokes, helped Emma remember her multiplication tables. I watched her. This woman who'd spent the afternoon in a hotel room and was now cutting her son's meatballs into smaller pieces. This woman who'd lied about a dentist appointment and was now quizzing our daughter on fractions. After dinner, I helped Emma with her homework while Jessica gave Noah a bath. At 8:30, we put them to bed. At 9, Jessica curled up on the couch next to me to watch TV. At 10:30, we went to bed. She fell asleep within minutes, her breathing deep and even. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and opened my email on my phone. Greg had sent 11 photos and 3 videos. Jessica walking into the Marriott at 3:08 p.m. Derek's Lexus in the parking lot. Jessica coming out at 5:47 p.m., hair slightly different, clothes wrinkled. Derek leaving separately at 5:44 p.m. I forwarded everything to Robert Patterson with a subject line. Wednesday meetings confirmed. 3 days per week, not 2. Then I set my phone down and closed my eyes. 3 days a week. $4,000 in cash. A whole separate set of lies I hadn't even known about. I was done waiting. I called Patterson Thursday morning. I need to know about Derek Lawson's boat, I said. The second chance? That's the one. If she's been on it, if they've used it, I want to know the legal implications. Patterson was quiet for a moment. Maritime law gets complicated. If he's taken her out on state waters, it's still adultery evidence. If we can prove she's been lying about her whereabouts to go boating with him, it strengthens the pattern of deception. Why? Just gathering information. Tyler, what are you planning? Nothing illegal. That's not reassuring. I hung up and called Greg. I need you to check the marina records, I said. Derek keeps his boat at Freedom Park Marina. I want to know if he's taken it out in the last 3 months and if anyone's seen Jessica with him. You want me to just walk in and ask? Tell them you're interested in buying a slip. Chat up the dockmaster. People talk. Greg called back 2 hours later. Your wife's been on that boat, he said. Dockmaster remembers a blonde woman. Said she was there at least 4 or 5 times. Always weekday afternoons. Said Derek told everyone she was his girlfriend. My hands tightened on the phone. When was the last time? Yesterday. Wednesday afternoon. They took the boat out for about 3 hours. Yesterday. While I was at a job site in Concord, bidding on a new medical plaza. While Emma was at soccer practice and Noah was at after-school care. Thanks, Greg. Tyler, whatever you're thinking, I'm just collecting facts. I spent the rest of Thursday documenting everything. I had Amy's statement about seeing them at Target. I had Greg's surveillance from the Marriott. I had the dockmaster's confirmation about the boat. I had 3 months of messages and $4,000 in unexplained cash withdrawals. Friday morning, Jessica kissed me goodbye before I left for work. I'm taking the kids to my mom's this weekend, she said. Give you a chance to relax. Maybe play some golf with Greg? When did you plan this? Just thought it would be nice. We haven't visited in a while. Her mom lived in Raleigh, 2 hours away. I wondered if Derek would be making the drive, or if she'd be meeting someone else entirely. Sounds good, I said. I could use the break. She smiled and kissed me again. You work so hard. You deserve it. I went to the office and pulled up our cell phone records. I'd added them to our shared cloud account months ago when we switched carriers. Jessica had never paid attention to that kind of thing. I found what I was looking for in about 20 minutes. There was a number she'd been calling regularly for 6 months. Not 3 months. 6. Before the messages to Derek even started. The calls were brief, usually under 5 minutes, and they came in clusters. 3 or 4 calls in a day, then nothing for a week. I ran the number through a reverse lookup. Lawrence Mitchell. Age 38. Address in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I sat there staring at the name. Greg knocked on my office door. You okay? There's another one, I said. Another what? Another guy. She's been calling him for 6 months. Greg closed the door behind him. You sure? I showed him the records. Lawrence Mitchell, Fort Mill. That's what, 30 minutes from here? 25, Greg said. What are you going to do? I'm going to find out who he is. It took me 3 hours and $200 to a private investigator I found online. His name was Kevin Walsh, and he specialized in background checks for corporate hiring. I told him I needed information on Lawrence Mitchell for a potential business partnership. Walsh called me back at 4:30 p.m. "Your guy's a personal trainer," he said. "Owns a gym called Peak Performance in Fort Mill. Divorced, no kids. Clean record except for a DUI 5 years ago. Drives a Dodge Charger. Lives in a condo complex off Gold Hill Road. Does he have any connection to Charlotte? His gym has a satellite location in South Park. Opens at 5 a.m., closes at 10 p.m. He splits his time between both locations. South Park, 10 minutes from our house." "Thanks," I said. I drove to Peak Performance that evening. The South Park location was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a Panera. Through the front window, I could see about a dozen people on treadmills and weight machines. Lawrence Mitchell was easy to spot. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with the kind of build that came from living in a gym. He wore a black polo shirt with the Peak Performance logo and was demonstrating something on a rowing machine to a middle-aged woman. I sat in my truck and watched him work. He smiled a lot, touched people's shoulders when he talked to them. The kind of guy who made you feel like you were the only person in the room. My phone buzzed. Jessica. "Hey babe, we're at my mom's. Kids are playing in the backyard. Miss you already?" I looked at the timestamp. 6:47 p.m. Then I looked at our cell records. She'd called Lawrence Mitchell at 2:15 p.m. today. The call lasted 8 minutes. I texted back, "Miss you too. Have fun." I watched Lawrence for another hour. At 8 p.m., he locked up the gym and walked to his charger. I followed him. He didn't go home. He drove to a Whole Foods, picked up what looked like a prepared meal, then headed to the condo complex Walsh had mentioned. I parked across the street and watched him go inside. My phone rang. "Patterson. I've been thinking about your case," he said. "If there's a second affair partner, it changes things. North Carolina lets you sue for alienation of affection, but you can only sue one person. You'd have to choose which one to go after. What if I don't sue either of them? Then we focus on the divorce. With this much evidence of adultery, you'll get a favorable settlement. Probably primary custody, the house, most of the assets. She'd get minimal alimony given her employment and the circumstances. How long would it take? If she doesn't contest, we could have it done in a year. North Carolina requires a year of separation before divorce is final, but we can file for legal separation immediately and work out custody and assets while we wait. And if she contests? Could be 2 years, maybe more if she fights hard enough." I thanked him and hung up. Saturday morning, I drove to Fort Mill. Peak Performance's main location was bigger than the South Park satellite, with a full basketball court and an indoor pool. Lawrence's Charger was in the parking lot. I went inside. The front desk was staffed by a kid who couldn't have been more than 20. "Help you?" he said. "I'm interested in personal training. Is Lawrence available?" "He's with a client until 11. Want to schedule a consultation?" "Sure." The kid handed me a form. I filled it out with a fake name and phone number, then sat in the waiting area. Through the window to the training floor, I could see Lawrence working with a woman about Jessica's age, blonde, fit, laughing at something he'd said. At 11:15, Lawrence came out to the lobby. "David," he said, reading from the form. I stood up. "That's me." We shook hands. His grip was firm, confident. "Lawrence Mitchell. Thanks for coming in. Why don't we talk about your fitness goals?" He led me to a small office off the main floor. The walls were covered with certifications and photos of Lawrence with various clients, all of them smiling, all of them looking like they'd just achieved something significant. "So what brings you to Peak Performance?" he said. I looked at him. This man had been talking to my wife for 6 months, maybe more. "I'm looking to make some changes," I said. "Get my life in better shape." "That's great. That's what we're all about here. Transformation. Becoming the best version of yourself." He pulled out a tablet. Tell me about your current routine. I gave him some generic answers about wanting to lose weight, build muscle, the usual things people probably said. He nodded along, taking notes, asking follow-up questions. And what about your schedule? He said. When would you be available for sessions? Weekday mornings work best. My wife handles the kids in the afternoon. Something flickered across his face when I said, wife? Just for a second. Mornings are good, he said. I have some openings, Tuesday and Thursday at 7 a.m. Tuesday and Thursday. The same days Jessica had been meeting Derek. Perfect, I said. I pulled into the parking lot of Mitchell Fitness at 6:45 p.m., 15 minutes early for my consultation. The gym occupied a standalone building off Providence Road, all glass and steel with motivational quotes plastered across the windows. Through them, I could see rows of equipment and a few people on treadmills. Lawrence Mitchell's online presence had been easy to research. 38 years old, divorced 3 years ago, no kids. He'd opened Mitchell Fitness 2 years back after working as a trainer at several corporate gyms. His Instagram showed the usual fitness influencer content: shirtless mirror selfies, meal prep photos, client transformation pictures. Nothing about a girlfriend or relationship status. What the Instagram didn't show was the 247 phone calls to my wife's cell number over the past 6 months, or the 1-891 text messages. I'd spent the afternoon going through the phone records Greg had obtained. The pattern with Lawrence was different from Derek. Where Derek got Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, Lawrence got late evenings and weekends. The calls clustered around 9 p.m. on weeknights after the kids were in bed, when Jessica would take her phone into the bathroom or out to the back porch. The weekend calls were worse. Saturdays and Sundays, multiple times a day. All those soccer games and birthday parties and grocery store trips where she'd stepped away to take a call. I grabbed the gym bag I'd brought as a prop and headed inside. The front desk was unmanned, but a bell sat next to a sign that said, "Ring for service." I hit it once. "Be right there!" A male voice came from somewhere in the back. Lawrence Mitchell emerged from a hallway 30 seconds later, and I recognized him immediately from his photos. 6'2", maybe 190 pounds, the kind of build that came from living in a gym. Dark hair styled with too much product, expensive athletic wear that showed off his physique. He had a smile that probably worked well on his female clients. "You must be James," he said, extending his hand. I'd used my middle name when I'd called to book the appointment. "Lawrence Mitchell," I shook his hand. "Thanks for fitting me in." "No problem, man. Always happy to do a consultation. Come on back to my office and we'll talk about your goals." I followed him down the hallway, past a room full of free weights and another with boxing equipment. His office was small but neat, with a desk, 2 chairs, and walls covered in certifications and before and after photos of clients. "Have a seat," he said, dropping into the chair behind his desk. "So, tell me what you're looking for. You mentioned on the phone you wanted to get back in shape?" "Yeah," I said. "I've let myself go the past few years. Work, kids, you know how it is. Used to be pretty active, but now I'm sitting behind a desk most days." "I hear that a lot. What kind of work do you do?" "I own a business, HVAC installation and repair." I decided to stick close to the truth. Easier to keep the story straight. "Nice. That's good money if you know what you're doing." He pulled out a tablet and started typing. "And you said you have kids?" "2, 9 and 6. Boys? Girls?" "One of each." He nodded, still typing. "Married?" 11 years. Something flickered across his face, so quick I almost missed it. Then the professional smile was back. "That's great, man. Family life is important. I was married for a while, but it didn't work out." "Sorry to hear that." "Nah, it's cool. We wanted different things, you know? She was all about the corporate life, climbing the ladder. I wanted to do my own thing, help people transform their lives. He set down the tablet. So what are your specific goals? Looking to lose weight, build muscle, just general fitness? Combination of all three, I guess. I want to feel better, look better. My wife's been on me about it. Another flicker. He leaned back in his chair. Your wife work out? She does Pilates a couple times a week. Stays pretty active. Good for her. It's easier when you have a partner who's into fitness. You can motivate each other. He paused. She ever think about training? I do couple sessions sometimes. Can be a good bonding experience. I let myself smile. I don't think she'd go for it. She's pretty particular about her routine. Fair enough? He picked up the tablet again. Let me show you what I'm thinking for a program. I'd recommend starting with 3 sessions a week, probably Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That gives you rest days in between and keeps your weekends free for family time. What about evenings? I can't really get away during the day. Evenings work great. I'm usually here until 9 most nights. Got a few clients who come in after work, after their kids are in bed, that kind of thing. That must make it hard to have a personal life, I said. He shrugged. I make it work. The flexibility is one of the perks of owning your own place. If I need to adjust my schedule for something, I can. That smile again. And honestly, this is my personal life. I love what I do. No girlfriend complaining about the late hours? Nah, I'm single right now. Casually dating, but nothing serious. After the divorce, I'm in no rush to jump back into anything heavy. He stood up. You want to see the facility? I can show you the equipment we'd be using. I followed him back out into the gym. He walked me through the different areas, explaining his training philosophy, talking about nutrition and recovery. He was good at his job, I'd give him that. Professional, knowledgeable, enthusiastic without being pushy. We ended up back near the free weights. A woman in her 40s was doing bicep curls, and Lawrence called out encouragement as we passed. That's one of my regular clients, he said, once we were out of earshot. Been training with me for 8 months. Down 35 pounds and feeling amazing. Impressive. The results speak for themselves. I've got clients who've completely transformed their lives. Lost weight, gained confidence. Some of them even say it saved their marriages. He looked at me. You'd be surprised how much getting in shape can improve your relationship. When you feel good about yourself, everything else gets better. I bet. We stopped near a bench press. Lawrence leaned against it, arms crossed. So what do you think? You want to give it a shot? How much are we talking? I do a few different packages. 3 sessions a week runs $600 a month. That includes a personalized program, nutritional guidance, the whole deal. I also offer a 6-month package at a discount, $3,000 upfront. I pretended to consider it. That's more than I was expecting. I get it, it's an investment. But think about what you're investing in. Your health, your family, your future. He pushed off the bench. Tell you what, why don't you take a card, think it over, talk to your wife about it. If you decide you want to move forward, give me a call and we'll get you started. He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to me. I looked at it. His cell number was printed at the bottom. The same number that had called my wife 247 times. I appreciate that, I said. I'll definitely think about it. No pressure, man. This has to be the right fit for you. He walked me back toward the front entrance. One thing I always tell potential clients, you get out what you put in. If you're willing to do the work, I can help you get the results. But it takes commitment. I understand. We shook hands again at the door. His grip was firm, confident. The grip of a man who had no idea he'd just spent 45 minutes talking to the husband of the woman he'd been sleeping with for 6 months. Hope to hear from you, James. You will, I said. I walked back to my truck and sat there for a minute, watching through the gym windows as Lawrence returned to his office. He pulled out his phone, typed something, set it down. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and opened the tracking app I'd installed on Jessica's iPad. A new message had just come through on her hidden thread. Lawrence. Just had the weirdest consult. Guy reminded me of you describing your husband. Same business, same age kids. Weird coincidence. Jessica's response came 30 seconds later. That is weird, but T would never step foot in a gym, lol. Probably just a coincidence. Lawrence. Yeah, probably. Miss you. Tomorrow still good? Jessica. Yes. Kids will be at my mom's. We'll have all afternoon. I sat there staring at the screen, my hands steady on the steering wheel. Tomorrow was Saturday, the day she'd told me she was taking Emma and Noah to her mother's for the weekend. I filed for divorce on Monday morning. Robert Patterson had the papers ready. We'd spent Sunday going through everything one last time. The messages, the bank records, Greg's surveillance photos, the phone logs showing 247 calls to Lawrence and hundreds more to Derek. We filed for legal separation with a petition for primary custody, and we filed the alienation of affection lawsuit against Derek Lawson. Not Lawrence. Derek. Lawrence was the longer affair, but Derek had the deeper pockets. Real estate agents keep most of their commission. Personal trainers barely scrape by. Robert estimated Derek was worth somewhere around $400,000 between his condo, his boat, and his business assets. The lawsuit would hurt him where it mattered. Jessica was served at work on Tuesday afternoon. I know because her sister called me at 4:17 p.m., screaming about what a heartless bastard I was. I let her yell for about 30 seconds, then hung up. Jessica came home at 6:30. The kids were at my mother's. I dropped them off that morning with a vague explanation about needing to handle some grown-up business. Emma had looked worried. Noah had just wanted to know if he could play with Grandma's dog. I was sitting at the kitchen table when Jessica walked in. She had the papers in her hand, her face red and blotchy from crying. Tyler, don't, I said. Please, just let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I know about Derek. I know about Lawrence. I know about the hotels, the boat, the money, all of it. Her face went white. How long have you known? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. If you knew, why didn't you say something? Why did you just... She gestured around the kitchen. Why did you keep pretending everything was fine? Because I needed to make sure I had everything documented for the custody hearing. That hit her. She sank into the chair across from me. You can't take my kids. There are kids, and I'm not taking them. The court's going to give me primary custody because you've been spending your afternoons in hotel rooms instead of being a mother. That's not fair. I've been a good mother. I've always been there for them. Except on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Wednesdays, and weekends when you told me you were at your mom's but you were actually with Lawrence. She put her head in her hands. I made a mistake. I made a terrible mistake, but that doesn't mean I don't love my children. You're right. It just means you loved yourself more. We sat there in silence. Outside, I could hear the neighbor's dog barking. A car drove past. Normal sounds from a world that had stopped being normal 3 weeks ago. Why? I finally asked. Just tell me why. Jessica looked up at me. Her eyes were red, mascara running down her cheeks. Because I felt invisible. You were always working, always busy with the business. The kids needed so much attention. I wanted to feel wanted again, desired. Like I was more than just a mom and a wife. So you found 2 men to make you feel special. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Jessica? Explain it to me. She wiped her eyes. Lawrence started as just someone to talk to. I met him at his gym when I went with a friend. We started chatting and he made me laugh. Made me feel interesting. It was just talking at first, I swear. Then it became more. For 6 months. Yes. And Derek? Derek was later. I met him at an open house. He was charming and attentive, and she trailed off. I know how this sounds. I know what I did was wrong. But I felt like I was disappearing, Tyler. Like I was just going through the motions of a life I didn't choose anymore. You chose it 11 years ago when you married me. I was 24. I didn't know what I was choosing. And now you do? She didn't answer. I stood up. I'm staying at a hotel for a few days. The kids will stay with my mom until we figure out the temporary custody arrangement. Robert will be in touch about the settlement negotiations. Tyler, please, can't we try to work this out? Go to counseling or something? I looked at her. This woman I'd spent 11 years with, the mother of my children, the person I'd trusted more than anyone in the world. No, I said, we can't. The divorce took 14 months. Jessica fought for joint custody, but the evidence was overwhelming. The court gave me primary physical custody, with Jessica getting the kids every other weekend and one evening per week. She kept her car and got $50,000 from the equity in the house. I kept the house, the business, and most of our savings. The alienation of affection lawsuit against Derek settled out of court for $175,000. His real estate business took a hit when the lawsuit became public. Turns out clients don't love hiring someone who's been sued for destroying a marriage. Last I heard, he'd moved to Atlanta. Lawrence disappeared from Jessica's life about 3 months after the divorce was filed. Apparently, being the other man lost its appeal once there was no marriage left to wreck. Jessica moved into a small apartment in South End. She still works at the dental office, still sees the kids every other weekend. Emma struggled with the transition at first, but she's doing better now. Noah adapted faster. He's young enough that 2 houses just seems like an adventure. I sold the house 18 months after the divorce was final. Too many memories. And Emma had started asking questions about why Mom didn't live with us anymore. I bought a smaller place in Myers Park, closer to their school. Started dating again, though nothing serious. Mostly I focus on work and the kids. Greg's still my business partner. He never said, "I told you so," which I appreciated. We landed the hospital contract, expanded the business, hired 6 new people. Success feels different now, emptier somehow, but maybe that's just part of getting older. I see Jessica sometimes at school events, at Emma's soccer games, at Noah's school concerts. We're civil, polite. We talk about the kids' schedules and who's picking them up when. Sometimes I catch her looking at me with something that might be regret, but I don't ask. The truth is, I don't think about her much anymore. The betrayal that felt like it would kill me 3 years ago has faded into something distant and manageable. Not forgiveness. I'm not sure I'm capable of that. But acceptance. She made her choices. I made mine. On a Thursday evening last month, I was helping Emma with her homework when she asked me a question I'd been dreading. "Dad, why did you and Mom get divorced?" Noah looked up from his Legos, suddenly interested. I put down the pencil I'd been using to check her math problems. "That's a complicated question, sweetheart." "I know, but I'm old enough to understand. I'm 12 now." 12. When had that happened? I thought about all the ways I could answer. I could tell her the truth, that her mother had affairs with 2 different men and destroyed our family. I could lie, say we'd simply grown apart. I could deflect, tell her she'd understand when she was older. Instead, I said, "Your mom and I wanted different things. We stopped being good partners to each other. And sometimes when that happens, the best thing you can do is admit it and move forward separately." "Do you hate her?" "No, I don't hate her." "Do you still love her?" I looked at my daughter, so serious and grown up, waiting for an answer that would shape how she understood love and marriage and trust. "I love who she was when we first met," I said carefully. "I love that she gave me you and your brother. But the person she became? No, I don't love that person. And that's okay. People change. Sometimes they change in ways that mean you can't stay together. Emma nodded slowly, processing this. Are you happy now? I am. Are you? Most of the time. I wish we could all live together like before, but I like both houses. I'm glad. Noah went back to his Legos. Emma returned to her homework, and I sat there thinking about happiness, about what it means to rebuild a life after someone tears down the one you had. The lesson, if there is one, isn't about revenge or justice or even trust. It's simpler than that. People will show you who they are. Your job is to believe them. Jessica showed me she was someone who would lie to my face while destroying our marriage. Someone who would risk her children's stability for the thrill of feeling desired. Someone who valued her own happiness over the promises she'd made. I believed her. And once I believed her, the path forward became clear. Not easy. Nothing about divorce is easy, especially with kids involved. But clear. You can't build a life with someone you don't trust. You can't raise children in a home filled with lies. You can't forgive betrayal just because ending the marriage is hard. Sometimes the right thing and the hard thing are the same thing. I chose hard. I chose truth. I chose my kids and my self-respect, and a future that didn't include wondering where my wife really was on Tuesday afternoons. 3 years later, I don't regret it. I'm sitting on my back porch as I write this, watching Emma and Noah play in the yard. It's a Sunday evening, my weekend with them. Tomorrow, Emma has a math test she's nervous about. Noah has show and tell. Normal life things. My phone buzzes. A text from Sarah, a woman I've been seeing for a few months. She's a teacher, divorced like me, gets it. Nothing serious yet, but maybe someday. Hope you're having a good weekend with the kids. Dinner Tuesday? I text back. Sounds good. Emma calls from the yard, asking if I'll push her on the swing. I put my phone away and walk over, and she climbs on, and I push her higher and higher while she laughs and tells me about a book she's reading. This is enough. This moment. This life. These kids. It's not the life I planned 11 years ago when I married Jessica. It's not the future I imagined when Emma was born, or when we bought the house, or any of the 1,000 small moments when I thought I knew how things would turn out. But it's mine. Built on truth instead of lies. On choices I made with my eyes open. And that, I've learned, is worth more than any marriage held together by ignorance. The swing creaks as Emma pumps her legs, going higher. Noah runs over, demanding his turn. I help Emma down and lift Noah up, and the evening sun slants through the trees, and somewhere in the distance someone's grilling dinner and life goes on. It always does.